Okay, hi, Paul Sakis. I'm here with the Governor, George Pataki. Hi, Governor. How are you?
Paul, nice being with you again.
Oh, it's always great being with the Governor. Governor did a wonderful job for 3 terms, right? Here in
Well, thank you. Yeah,
the state of New York.
12 years, and tremendous honor that the people of New York gave me.
As well as you were mayor of Peekskill in some people say upstate New York.
Right, my hometown, and just a great town, and I'll tell you, it was a wonderful experience, and not an easy job.
Okay, we just recorded actually some of your opening speech. We're here at the Chadbourne Parke Green Business Summit #2. We were at #1,
right.
and Governor Pataki is affectionately known as Mr. Alternate Energy by I think Fox News. Somebody,
Yeah.
Is that right?
Fox News called me that, and I think in these difficult times, everybody is concerned about the future economically and concerned about climate change. A very bright spot, an area of good news, if you want to use that term, is the opportunity for alternate energy, clean energy, wind power, solar power, geothermal, biomass, that not only will be renewable and clean, but result in hundreds of millions of dollars of investment in the United States, creating jobs in the United States. So I'm just optimistic that from all the challenges we face, there's always a silver lining, and alternate energy is one of those silver linings.
How about the actual reduce, reuse, recycle? I believe America uses 25%. We have 350 million people, and there's 6.5 billion in the world. America is I'd say a glutton for energy.
Absolutely. We've got to reduce our energy use. And one of the biggest areas in buildings, 40% of our energy is just used to heat or power buildings, and we can reduce that dramatically. And that's why when I was governor, I created a program, the Green Building Tax Credit Program, the first in America, where we would actually provide tax credits to companies that would build green, recycle their water, use photovoltaic windows to reduce electric usage, use recycled non-volatile materials for painting and building in the interiors of buildings, and it's been a tremendous success in New York, and I know it can be a tremendous success nationally.
It's also a lifestyle change, right? I mean, wherever we are now, it doesn't really matter. We're all in this together. But the fact is that there's 1,000 lights on right now where we are, and there's nobody in this room.
Well, Paul, that's exactly right. It is a lifestyle change, but it's not a question of asking Americans to sacrifice. What we always do when we face challenges is innovate. And the lights, we can have automated system where the lights go on and off, dim or bright, based on the usage at the time. We can have a smart grid where instead of running your appliance when the electricity is most in demand, the computerized system will turn on your washing machine 3 o'clock in the morning, so that when there's excess surplus power, like wind power, that isn't creating pollution. So we can not only reduce our energy usage, create new sources of domestic clean sources of energy, but we can also improve our lifestyles, improve the environment, and create American jobs by innovation, by technology, by caring. And I know Americans do, and I'm optimistic about this.
We're involved with a project, actually Pete Seeger called it this one, Water Not Weapons. Okay, water being so important, you being a Hudson River man, I growing up in Tarrytown on the Hudson River.
We used to be at your high school all the time, Paul.
Well, you were taller up there. I don't know, the altitude was...
It was drinking the water, I think.
How about the world's water concerns?
It is a concern, and we have to be more intelligent in our usage. And part of our green buildings program would take gray water, which is the rainwater that is used, and store it and recycle it. It would take brown water and use it for things like fertilizing the lawns, and so you would reduce the usage. Water will be an important resource, which is one of the reasons why when I was governor we created just north of Tarrytown and Peekskill the Hudson River Estuaries Institute to study estuaries, which are important transition between freshwater and seawater, and it's up and running, it's coming along, and we hope it will be one of the leading entities to help us take steps to make sure that we enhance water quality, not just in the U.S., but globally.
And what brought you to such an environmental pinnacle of life? Were you a Boy Scout?
I wasn't a Boy Scout, but I grew up on a farm. And my grandparents came from Eastern Europe, where you lived on the same farm for 1,000 years, so that you didn't just
right.
plow it over.
I'm sorry, you're Hungarian, right?
My father said,
That's
you
right.
too.
That's right, I'm Hungarian.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so my grandparents had this ethos, and my brother, myself, my cousins all worked on the farm, where we fertilized with manure from the cows and from the horse. We knew that this field was going to be important this year and 10 years from now, so you better take care of it. And then my other grandparents had a boat club down on the Hudson River, and when I was a little kid, I'd go down there, and it would be 95 degrees and 95 humidity in the Hudson Valley. As you know, it can get like that in August. And you'd be looking out at this river, and my parents would be saying, don't you dare put your foot in it. It's liable to fall off because it was so polluted. So I learned early on an ethos that the air and the water and the soil are not just ours, they're ours to pass on, and hopefully in an enhanced state. And when those before you have screwed up, as they did with the Hudson River, it damages people who had nothing to do with the problems they created. So now the Hudson River is infinitely cleaner. I could go down to my grandparents, where my cousin now lives, and swim in the Hudson. Yeah, you can, you know, if you have the right policies, it makes things better for everybody.
Last question, because I know you have to get into the summit. What's good news for Governor George Pataki? Good news.
You know, I'll tell you, when I left government, and I have to thank the people for the tremendous honor of being the governor for 12 years, you know, you never know what's going to happen. But I went with Chadbourne, which is a great green law firm, the renewable energy law firm of the year, again in 2008, and it's just been wonderful in the private sector to work to put together the capital, the businesses, the entrepreneurs, the technicians, to carry out the policies I wanted to implement from the public sector. Because that's what you need. You need leadership from the public sector, but you need the development, the technology and the entrepreneurship from the private sector. And now I can do it from the private side. So you know, these are tough times, but I'm just very excited about the opportunities going forward, and certainly green business is one of the greatest opportunities.
Well, Governor, we're way behind you. Jeremy Wilson, who's with me here, he said you should have ran for president. How come you don't run for president?
25 years in public office, I needed a break. But Jeremy, thank you for the kind comments. And you know, it's going to be physicists like you that help us break the code, so that we can take that next leap into green technology.
Okay, thanks, Governor Pataki. Always an honor. Always an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a tremendous success. We heard from a lot of you. Let's do it again. And so we have, and we have more people at this one than we had in June. A little bit's changed since June. You know, back then, Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers were companies, and Merrill Lynch was an independent entity, and Goldman Sachs wasn't going to be opening branches where you could cash a check. Liquidity was rampant. The stock market was at 12,000. The Dow was at 12. And everybody was enormously optimistic about the prospects for green energy going forward and green investments. A lot has changed. But if you ask me, one of the things that has not changed is the tremendous opportunity. Yes, of course, there's always risk, but the tremendous opportunity in green investments going forward. I think there are a number of reasons for that. One is that the political climate is still the same. We're going to have a new president and a new Congress in 18 days, and I am absolutely sure that regardless of who wins, we're going to have a very strong national effort to enact cap-and-trade legislation limiting greenhouse gas emissions over the course of the next few years, and that is going to require a change in behavior by utilities and others who produce those greenhouse gas emissions. I think we're going to see an increased governmental investment, as it's called correctly or incorrectly, in renewables, and a focus on trying to make sure we can do more to stimulate investments in the renewable area. And I think you're also going to see efforts to transform from the governmental side to encourage or require transformation of the transportation and automotive industry. And as most of you know, today, 97% of the fuel we use to transport goods and people around our country is petroleum-based. That is going to change, and it will change. So the political climate, I think, still is very favorable to this sector. I also think that the economic climate will continue to be favorable in this sector. A lot of what we're going to be talking about today is power generation, alternate means of power generation. The price of electricity has been going up, and in all likelihood will continue to go up. We're going to see continued increased demand. We're going to see the population of the country increase by probably 50% over the next 50 years, and you're going to see a lot of the transportation industry changing from being petroleum-based to being hybrid electric-based. So I think you're going to see increased demand. Boone Pickens is going to be here at lunch, and he'll talk about the Pickens plan, and I'm sure you're all looking forward to meeting and hearing Boone. He's just a fascinating guy. He was just on the radio this morning predicting that oil is going to go back to $140 a barrel. Well, whether it stays at $71 a barrel like it is today, goes down a little more, goes up to $140 a barrel, it is an enormous problem in our country. It is an environmental problem. It is an economic problem because we are sending somewhere between $250 billion and $500 billion overseas simply to buy foreign oil, to burn it, pollute the atmosphere, and we have to do it again the next day. And we have to do something to change that. And I think not just government, but individuals know we have to do that. And it is a national security problem. Because when you see lunatics like Ahmadinejad and Hugo Chavez out there, they are empowered by the revenue they get simply by selling the petroleum that comes from their ground. So I think there's still enormous opportunity in this space. Obviously, there are constraints, one of them being the illiquidity, the freezing up of the capital markets. And we will have a panel today talking about the changing climate for that. You know, when you have investment tax credits, it's wonderful, so long as you have the profits to offset the tax against. And there's a lot of concern as to whether or not, in fact, those tax credits are going to have the same impact they once did unless you have that profit to offset against it. It is going to be more difficult to finance various stages of green business development because of the liquidity issues. And then there are inherent constraints, like when you look at wind power or solar power or geothermal. The resources are there, the technology is developed, but in many cases you have transmission restraints where you can't get the power, the wind power from the Great Plains to the markets. And what are we going to do to overcome those restraints? You know, I personally feel very strongly that one of the things we as a nation need is a commitment to a national electric transmission system. When you think of how this country has gone forward through leaps and bounds, one of them started with a governmental program called the Erie Canal to now open up new areas to farming and commerce. Another thing that brought our country together was the development of the transcontinental railroad. Another thing where the government provided incentives to the private sector to stay in the country and to link us together. We all know the impact the highway system begun by President Eisenhower had, not just on changing the way we get around, but the very way we live, creating suburbs in our mobile atmosphere, our mobile lifestyle that we have today. And all of those projects had impacts far beyond what those who believed in them thought would happen, that were positive for our country. And if we have a commitment to a national electric transmission superhighway from coast to coast to access those renewable sources of energy, it will not only help us spur the growth of those renewable industries, keep that $500 billion a year here, help us with dealing with the issue of climate change. It will create enormous economic opportunities in this country we can only think of today. So there are constraints, transmission being one, there will be a panel talking about that. Access to capital being another, and there will be a panel talking about that. But for all the concerns, and we're only on the second floor and the windows are sealed so you can't jump out if you look at the BlackBerry in the market, doesn't do particularly well today. I think there are tremendous opportunities. We are still going to see increasing demand for electricity and in all likely higher prices that give enormous opportunity for renewables. We still are horrendously over-dependent on foreign oil for transportation. We're going to see a transformation in that industry, part of which Boone Pickens will be talking about later on today. You're here because you believe that. The panels will help guide you through how you can achieve that. And I just hope that this second Green Business Summit is as successful as the first. Thank you for being here. And let me now introduce partner at Chadbourne, who will be hosting and introducing the first panel discussion. Thank you very much.